Um, it came to light overnight that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 will no longer be shipping this year. Also, the studio developing it, Hardsuit Labs, is no longer developing it. They have been, whatever the arrangement was between them and Paradox, right? The publisher.
Paradox owns about 30% of them.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, I missed that detail. So yes, that arrangement has been dissolved, and they say they are shopping.
Well, not the ownership arrangement, but the
no. I'm sorry, the development arrangement. Like the Hardsuit Labs working on the game has that arrangement has ended.
They were not leading it. They may still be doing something on it.
But they say. Was it in this statement? There's a lot of information coming from different angles here because there was this sort of conversation between the CEO and who was the other executive at Paradox.
Yeah, the CFO and the CEO had like a Twitch stream where they just kind of
like they put out a statement on the official Vampire Twitter that was pretty like buttoned up, but then also there was this Twitch stream where they got a little more loose about some things.
And now Retro Studios is going to come in and finish it, right? I think that's how this works.
Sure, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember where they said, but they said somewhere that they are essentially looking for another studio to.
They said they have a studio, but they have a studio, but they haven't announced it. Yeah.
Okay. They it sounds like maybe they have a studio who is in place to complete the work on the game.
It's wild because it's been what 8 months since they shifted the leads. Or it was Brian Mitsoda who was obviously writing the project. He worked for Troika back in the day.
Maybe the original one. That stuff.
He was the one they had like sort of carted out in front of everyone during. We interviewed him on NoClip, and he was interviewed all over the place. And he hates doing interviews. So, but they had him sort of front and center because they were like, "Look, it's one of the old Troika guys, and he's writing this thing." He was canned, and so was the creative director on the project last summer. I remember reporting at the time suggested that he was pretty surprised when at least that's what he was saying, that he was surprised when it happened. I think at that stage you could imagine that maybe they were trying to close it out or something, but it's wild to think that 8 months later they just pulled it from them.
Yeah.
There's obviously something crazy is going on there, which we're not privy to. Yeah, we just weren't happy with the quality
and multiple layers of it too. Like that's the number of different layers of crazy now. Like it's just stacking up higher and higher with every announcement. So that's weird. This seemed like whatever, as much as anything can. But I feel like from the outside looking in, from its announcement and stuff, you're like, oh yeah, they should do one of those. And it was just like, of course they'll make it and it'll be fine. Like but like, I don't know, like I haven't been following it super closely. Do you get the impression that there is some insane level of ambition attached to this that would make it more difficult to make? Or is it just like, hey, the pandemic and a bunch of other things and just didn't come together, and so we're doing this? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough type of game to make in 2021 as well, right? Like the original one came out 2004. It was the same week as Half-Life 2, which is perhaps why it didn't sell gangbusters. But I think it was the first Source game that it was ever released, actually, because it came out right before Half-Life, or maybe the first game on Steam or something like that. It was something weird. But yeah, like that game was a lot of like conversation trees and like relationship, and in a way that like maybe that's a different challenge to do in 2021. And
I guess so.
It's not just conjecture, but
maybe they wanted a dialogue wheel and then realized they'd BioWare owned it and
they hit that patent. It's like, oh well, there goes all that work down the drain.
That's all right. All these loading screens of mini games. That's okay, right?
No, that's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's a shame.
And it'll be okay.
It seemed like this was like the defining moment for Hardsuit as well, because obviously they've worked on others. There's a Blacklight, I think, was their other big project, but they've worked on this for like 5+ years now, and it was such a feel good moment for Paradox to be like, we're bringing Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's like
because that game is like a cult hit among cult hits. Like that thing has a very, very devoted fan base.
So it's a big shame.
Yeah,
like this type of thing as well. There's no telling now how much of that game gets brought over to the new studio.
Right?
Did they not? It's
and I guess if they own some chunk of Hardsuit, then you have to imagine that they can handle that handoff and be like, hey, here's what you're getting, as opposed to just like, here's a source repository, figure it out. So maybe they can assist with the transfer that way. I just don't know.
Maybe
the details are so murky and weird, but yeah, like some.
Maybe they're still working on it, and we're supporting the main studio helping with some of that
or especially or even just as the transition is just like, hey, here's the code, and here's what this means, and we didn't document any of it, but I'm here to tell you this is what it is, or to help the new team get up to speed with whatever the tools are, however they've implemented them and all other stuff. Like that just seems like a really hard handoff.
Imagine working
especially
on
for a game that already got
long.
delayed and a bunch of other stuff like that, where you're just like, okay, well, if they're handing it off, like what state is it in? Maybe it's a mess, or I don't know.
Could you imagine working on something that long and then somebody just going like, no, we're going to let them do it.
Have it taken away from you. Yeah.
Killer.
That's a lot. They say Paradox put up a 2020 earnings report dated today as well, in which they say this has been a difficult decision, but we are convinced that it is the right way forward to do the game justice. So, like, pretty pointed statement. Also, there's some other stuff in here about Empire of Sin. Like, this whole thing is just like kind of weirdly blunt.
They didn't hold back on the Empire of Sin stuff.
We are not satisfied with the launch, neither with the quality of the game, nor how it was received by the market. Like, they're just kind of really laying it down on all of the stuff they have going on here. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. But
like, in both of those cases, you think, okay, you own Hardsuit, you're publishing this, we're working with Romero Games on this, the game still came out, and
you're the one who put it out. You can't,
and you've been working with Hardsuit for this X number of years. It's like, when did the sort of come to Jesus moment about quality sort of come? It's very...
a great username in the chat here. I lost it. Was it Rectal Debt?
Oh, okay.
I believe that was what it was. I scrolled through. It said, like, do you think the Cyberpunk situation maybe spooked them?
Could be.
In a world where Cyberpunk happened, do you suddenly take stock of what you've got in the works and go like, oh shit, people really looking forward to this vampire game, and it is on a version of a rail, but the rail does not match the rails we have been promoting for a long time.
Yeah.
We got to close that gap somehow.
Even Jim Ryan obliquely referenced the Cyberpunk situation in this interview. Now that you mention it,
rectal area. Sorry, very different.
much different.
That's a better name.
And Empire of Sin came out around the same launch window as Cyberpunk, and there was a lot of like the same type of thing where fans weren't happy, so they patched. So I wonder if they sort of had like their own mini version of that and almost dodged a bullet, perhaps, that the Cyberpunk thing happened. I could that reads like something that could have been possible. Yeah.
Yes.
I hope we hear from someone.
What did Jim Ryan say?
Oh, sorry, I just closed the tab again. Let me pull it up.
I'm curious to hear Sony talk about the Cyberpunk situation, because it's still not for sale there, right?
So he didn't. So he did not bring it up by name.
Okay,
but it seems pretty
the game
obvious
that shall never be.
The Keanu Reeves.
In answer to the question, we imagine you've got a roadmap
from last year. No, I don't know.
No. Right. We imagine you've got a roadmap for 2021 in terms of the games that you want to release. How fixed is that, given the disruptions COVID-19 has caused to development? Returnal recently got pushed back a month. Yeah, we're feeling pretty good about Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Horizon Forbidden West. And, there are two approaches to this. You can either hold the date and put out the game irrespective of quality, or you can ship it when it's right. We have always taken the latter approach. There have been some fairly high-profile instances of publishers trying the former approach.
You motherfuckers published No Man's Sky.
To this day, I don't think No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk are comparable in that regard. Like, so No Man's Sky worked.
I agree with you.
No Man's Sky was playable.
Yes. I mean, I finished Cyberpunk on PC.
Did you finish No Man's Sky?
You never finished. No, Alex did. Alex did.
Wait, you can finish No Man's
Even at launch, there was a sort of get to the center of the galaxy kind of you've seen credits-ish sort of thing, I think. I don't think those launches are not.
But Sony was responsible for a lot of the marketing and situations 100%. That No Man's Sky that created that No Man's Sky situation. Like, if you think back to us in that hotel before that game got announced, looking at that game and talking to them about that game, and then what it spiraled into as Sony started putting out more and more press releases. Some of that's on Sony.
It was a functionally infinite universe. It's exactly what they said it was going to be in that regard. And
In
I
that
went back
regard,
recently. I fact checked this shit recently. Like, there are news stories from like the month before No Man's Sky came out, explicitly saying like, "Hey, this game doesn't have multiplayer." Like, that stuff was out there. Like,
Totally, yes.
Cyberpunk is a fucking broken game on the PS4. Like, you cannot play through that game at any measure of reasonable
I'm
quality.
not saying broken, not broken. I am saying level of quality and kind of like the marketing matching. That is a situation where if they had pushed that game back, they would have not run into that sort of situation. So I think for Sony to be out there saying that, I think Sony that is on them.
Was that in the Ryan
a lot
era?
of that at Hello Games? I think that is something that Sony kind of created some of that situation on its own with the way they showed the game off pre-release and some of that other stuff too. So I'm not saying it is a full fucking 100% lineup from those two situations, but for him to be like, we like to ship the games when they're good, like, yeah, now you do. Man.
All right, what were we talking about? I completely lost the Bloodlines.
Vampires.
Bloodlines.
Okay, well, I think we covered that too. Honestly,
Ready when it's ready. Sounds like.
Maybe.
Yeah. Be surprised if it'd be next year at this stage. Oh, I guess it's hard to tell how far these games are.
Yeah, I mean, they don't give
something.
any time frame. They don't give any time frame whatsoever. I think they just say not in 2021, which seems about as open ended as it could be. But I mean, you'd have to be if you're literally shifting development to another studio.